everybody. Guess what? Talking baseball with Mickey Callaway, Eric Katz, and yours truly, the Motor City Madmouth. And I know Katzy and Mickey were busy last night talking it on another network,
Yep.
but now we get to do it on our own, right, Skip?
That's right. We're here and bright and early and ready to go.
Yeah, we sure are. I'm telling you, I got my Skip and my kid. Don't get any better than that, everybody. All right, we are talking baseball. Got a lot to get to today. But we're going to start off with the Los Angeles Dodgers, who started the season 7-0. Best franchise start ever. As defending champions. But guess what, people? It's a long season, and they are 82-65 and only 2.5 games ahead of the San Diego Padres. Sometimes, Mr. Katz, isn't how fast you start, but it's how fast you finish, isn't it?
It's a long season, and a lot can happen. You can go out and win the headline war in an off season and spend all that money on every big name free agent you can think of. But what it comes down to is how the games are played. And as we always say, Scott, the 9 guys on the field have the final say on what happens always.
Yeah, they sure do. Skip, what do you think? You want to know? You've been through this drill a few times over.
Yeah, like Katsy said, these are always a grind. These are the longest seasons, in any major sport, and it is a grind. And like Katsy said, once again, you can put together whatever team you want, spend however much money you want, spend a little money you want. It's all about the players that are playing on the field. If guys stay healthy and they perform the way they can, then you're going to be in pretty good shape. But you still got to be playing really well this time of year going into the playoffs, so you have some momentum to try to make a playoff run, because once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen.
Oh, no question about it. Again, they started off 7-0. They beat the Tigers 3 in a row at the beginning. The Tigers bounced back and won a few series. Of course, they're one of the best teams in baseball. We'll get to them a little bit later in the show. But yeah, not only how fast you certainly like to have good starts, don't get me wrong, but 7-0, keep in mind, do the math, is 162. And it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. Obviously, you got by the Yankees and beat them, I think, last year in 5, but nobody was handing the Dodgers a World Series by any means after week 1. So let's continue on. We know early last month that the Yankees released right-hander starter Marcus Stroman. What are your thoughts about the move when it happened, Eric?
I didn't think they'd do it in season. I thought like Stroman at least they were going to try and salvage Stroman kind of as a relief pitcher of sorts. But ultimately, though, the signing just didn't work out. Stroman really he got off to a good start like last season in 24. Like he had a good run going there, and then the second half he really faded. And the Yankees ultimately never used him in the postseason despite having him on the roster. So it was really unfortunate for him, because when they made the signing, I actually liked it. I thought he'd be a decent mid rotation guy because he was just coming off a pretty good year with the Cubs where he was an all-star. But ultimately, the move didn't really work out, and the Yankees decided to go with the young kids they have in Will Warren and Cam Schlitter, and that seemingly has worked out better. So it's looking like they made the right move.
Skip?
Yeah, there's times when you just have to make a move that you might not want to make, and this is probably one for them. They signed Stroman, and we're hoping to get a little bit more out of him than they did. Right. The one thing I know about Stroman, this guy's a great athlete. He's going to go reinvent himself in some way, and he's going to come back and pitch in the big leagues next year, and he'll be really competitive. That's just who this kid is. He's always working, always looking for an edge. Things didn't work out the way he wanted to and the way they wanted to there in New York, but he'll land with somebody else, and he'll end up having some more effective seasons in the major leagues.
Okay, well, if you're going to say that, where would you think he would probably pitch? I would think that he would probably pitch a winter ball, wouldn't you? To try to get some of those skills back. It's not uncommon for veteran pitchers to pitch a winter ball.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Right. That's always a good option. He made 9 starts, I think, this year with the Yankees and had a 6-something ERA. He needs to go out there and reinvent himself to a degree to make sure that he's major league ready for next spring training. And it's a great place to do that. There's great competition. You can go to the Dominican, pitch against some really good players, and work on the things that you need to work on.
Great points. Yeah, the Dominican Republic is a good place to work. Obviously, a lot of great players come out of there. We'll stay on the Yankees theme, shall we? Again, back to early August, the Yankees acquired David Bednar from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Katz, how are the early returns on that trade?
I love it. I mean, the Yankees at that point, their closer role was in a tailspin. I mean, Devin Williams was supposed to be the guy, which I liked the move when the Yankees made it, but it really hasn't worked out. And I think I partially attribute it to that Devin he's just not meant to be pitching in New York. Not everybody is. New York is an incredibly difficult place to play, both as a player and a manager. Mickey probably knows that very, very well. It's been great for Bednar. I mean, Bednar's been terrific for them. He seemingly has stabilized that role, and he's just taken it and ran with it. And I think the good news for the Yankees is they do have some control remaining on him. So it seems like he's going to hopefully be the guy longer term, because since Mariano Rivera retired, the Yankees have ultimately had no stability in that role. Sure, they'll get flashes in the pans every once in a while. They'll get a guy for a year or two, but they haven't been able to find that guy since Mariano Rivera. And I think part of that too is whoever walks into that role is going to be compared to Mariano Rivera. That's just how it is, because Mariano Rivera did it for so long. Yankee fans were spoiled by him for years upon years upon years, that you knew the game was practically locked up when he came out. You hear Enter Sandman for the most part. That's it. Game over. You
Right.
just take your ABs, but it's not. You're not going to get too much off of them. But it's good to see that the Bednar's worked out. I mean, he's been dominant for the Yankees, and he's been the guy that they were expecting Devin Williams to be, which ultimately comes down to is Devin Williams ultimately went up in flames. He's having a career worst year, and I just think that he just cannot. He just can't pitch in New York. I mean, that's what it comes down to, because the pinstripes do weigh heavy.
Yep.
Yeah, they like Katsy said, big shoes to fill. Obviously, you're coming in behind the best reliever, the best closer that's ever played in this game. And the Yankees historically have had some really great guys at the back of the bullpen, and for whatever reason, since Mariano left, it's been kind of hard to fill those shoes with somebody that's super dependable. And like Katsy said, it might be the comparison you're going to get to Mariano Rivera. But it sounds like this is a great acquisition. He's putting up great numbers. He just closed out a big game for him once again. And, it's way better to have that stability going into the playoffs than having 3 or 4 guys and trying to rotate them and trying to figure out, these matchups are better this inning in the 8th, and we'll go with this guy in the 9th. Just give the guy his 9th inning and let the other guys do the rest in the 7th and 8th.
Well, keep in mind, he's used to losing in Pittsburgh, for crying out loud. Why don't you be feeling good, which he is, that you can win in New York? So you have more games to close. You're on a bigger stage to begin with. So no, New York has to be like paradise. Well, we're on, like Eric was alluding, Devin Williams. It was a culture shock leading Milwaukee to go over to New York. Go ahead, Eric. You had something else you wanted to add?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, too, that some people attribute it to what happened in the postseason last year when Devin Williams allowed that home run to Pete Alonso, which ultimately was the decider. I really don't believe that. I mean, sure, it was just devastating when it happened, but I don't really, maybe early on, sure, but this late in the year, come on. I mean, Mariano, we'll go back to Mariano Rivera. He allowed Luis Gonzalez to hit a game winner in Game 7 of the World Series. Right. And it didn't break Mo. I mean, sure, it might have affected him early in the year, possibly. I don't quite remember, but if Devin is having a hard time getting over that hurdle, something's seriously wrong, because we're about almost a year after it. It's a new year, especially with it. You should have been able to get over, especially with it being your free agent year. But now, given how just poor he's pitched this year, he's going to be hoping that he gets a 1-year prove-it contract from somebody.
Yeah, no, good points on both sides. Okay, well, we'll remain on the Yankees because there's an awful lot going, and then we're going to shift gears a little bit. So was it smart for the Yankees to not, and I repeat the word not, trade Spencer Jones unless it was for Paul Skenes? Eric?
I was back and forth on this for a long time, especially last year when he only hit about 17 home runs, but he set the Yankees minor league record in strikeouts. I think it was a smart move. He's seemingly figured that out this year. I mean, he's a power hitter, so he's gonna rack up Ks. That's just how it is. I mean, Aaron Judge does it all the time, and it's kind of I think it's very much become a swing and a miss league. It's I was happy they didn't trade him because he's having a great year. I think the Yankees have him as part of their plans because the Yankees have their outfield set right now with they're looking for it to be Judge, Dominguez, and then eventually Spencer Jones because Cody Bellinger isn't going to be around forever, and Trent Grisham's having a career year, yes, but do I think he's going to be the guy? Do I think he's going to be that guy next season? I don't know, but I think he's kind of priced his way out of the Yankees where someone else is going to make the mistake and give him that big money, and I don't think the Yankees are going to do it. So how the Yankees have their outfield set right now is Spencer Jones is going to be a part of those plans. So I'm happy that they didn't trade him.
All right, Skip.
Yeah, I agree, right? Having these top prospects is like having money in your coffers. You always want to keep those coffers full, and so when you can pull the trigger when you need to. It's way more valuable to have a really good set of prospects than it is to have cash. Right. You can go buy free agents and stuff like that in the off season, but there's going to be a guy out there like Paul Skenes, and there's going to come a time in next year or the next year where, whoa, it just didn't work out. We're not building the way we want to. And here's Paul Skenes. We want your best prospects so we can rebuild. It's not, well, give us a bunch of money for Paul. That's just not how it works. So the Yankees are smart. If they would have gotten Paul, it would have been a great deal. But if they don't, then they need to hold on to him until that opportunity comes around again.
Well, remember one thing: George Steinbrenner doesn't own the club. George would trade anybody. Hal Steinbrenner is different. Right. He'd hold on to these guys. Although George Steinbrenner got smarter later on when Gene Michaels said, you got to keep some of these guys. Then all of a sudden Don Mattingly comes into play. They're Gator. It's not a bad thing when you keep these guys. They're good players.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, eventually with George, I think everybody's in love with the idea of doing that. But eventually it came back to bite George Steinbrenner, particularly in the late 80s, early 90s. Where he kept doing it, and then the Yankees just didn't win again for a while. It's just, you can't keep doing that because remember, the Yankees had Willie McGee. They also had Doug Drabek in their farm system. If George would have stayed patient and kept those guys, Don Mattingly might have been in the postseason sooner than 1995. Right. It might have been prime Mattingly. Who knows? But but you can't keep trading them because eventually what's going to happen is your team is going to be stuck in the mud. Your players are going to be aging, and you'll have to rely on going to the MLB draft casino to try and refill it. Otherwise, you're going to be in a decades-long rebuild. Take the Pittsburgh Pirates, for example, and you won't be able to just contend. And ultimately, your fans are just going to be impatient. They're going to get worse, and it's going to be very unpleasant for a while. I mean, that's why you just can't keep on trading them. But people I think are in love with the idea of trading for a big name, but that big name doesn't remain a big name forever.
Well, remember one thing, you really touched on some here, Katz, and I'll tell you why. When I interviewed Don Mattingly a couple of weeks ago in Toronto, I mentioned Willie McGee, and tell you, Don spoke highly of Willie McGee. And Willie McGee proceeded to win a world championship when he was with the St. Louis Cardinals. I believe Whitey Herzog was his manager at the time. Yes. If I remember right, Whitey Herzog knows how to run that speed game, Skip. I mean, he really does. And there you go. Oh, and Chris Pizza's in here. The Yankees also had Fred McGriff, Doug Drabek, Jay Buhner as well. Welcome to the show, Mr. Pizza. Glad to have one of you guys on here. At least you guys didn't. Well, this was an early show for you guys after their hangover last night with you, Skip. But that's a good point, though, Chris. I mean, you have Jay Buhner, Fred McGriff, but reality is Don and I talk about William McGee, and he remembers those days real well. That's, again, Mattingly and I go back to the 80s, and of course we're still friends, but that's besides the point. And there's Rob in the big show. He's getting ready to come on Monday. And yes, Rob, I'm looking forward to my battle royal with with the New York City loudmouth. Got me all lined up and geared up for that. I know you guys are master promoters anyways.
Scott,
Make sure he shows up this time.
I was going to say, though, the Buhner trade not only was a bust, but also angered George Costanza's dad.
Yeah, that's right.
That's fun.
It also angered George's dad.
Well, Rob says you can't deplete your farm system. Well, the Yankees did. I mean, yeah, well, they did, but they won. But they have a lot of world championships in their pocket too. There's not like you deplete your farm system, have nothing to show for it. They did get titles.
But they got two
until they became relevant again.
Yeah, they got two. They got two, Scott. I mean, sure, they made it back in 81 and 76, but it don't. I mean, sure, you got two World Series titles, but Scott, eventually the winning runs out. Nobody stays on top forever, which is the importance of your farm system.
Well, we know that, but don't tell that to George. If you've ever met the guy, I don't know if you ever met him, Skip.
No, I didn't.
But this guy's the most impatient individual on the planet. Why do you think he went through 9 million? He went through managers faster than the auto industry to go out there and produce automobiles. And if you ask him about the topic in person, he's going to let you know about it. Take it from somebody who had to deal with this wrath.
Right. Yes, Scott, like you said, they got some titles. I know they'd love to have two titles in the last 10 years this more recent times. But it is a balance, right? You have to keep those young kids so you always can, bring those guys up, because if you're just sitting there trying to play the free agent game, that does end up biting you a little bit, and it just doesn't work out all the time. But you can win some titles. The key to the dynasties is always your young players, right? You want the Posadas and the Mariano Riveras and the Jeters, and you want a core like that to come up, and then you build around those guys, and then you can win 5 or 6 championships sometimes. So it's a very, very hard game to play. You got to make the right decisions. Sometimes it takes patience, but sometimes Steinbrenner's lack of patience paid off in championships.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no question about that. I mean, let's face it, Billy Martin's winning one, Bob Lemon's winning another one. Dick Hauser gets fired for winning 103 games. What is it? What happens? All he does is win one in Kansas City, and he's revered there. I'm sorry,
years later. Well, yeah, Hauser won a few years later after 80. And the thing about it too is, like, I think the minor league system has become more important than ever, because now the postseason is significantly bigger, because George was trading these guys when all you had was, at the time, you had to win, the AL East at the time with 15 other teams. You'd go to the ALCS, and then you would go to the postseason. That's when George was doing it. Nowadays, you have like I think 3 wild card teams, and it's just harder now. So that makes the minor league system more important, because there are more playoff spots available.
Right. That's true. I mean, they can go a lot of different ways with that. You got more playoff spots available for sure, but there's more hoops to climb. You need more players to get through it as more guys go down. So Larry Cybrewski's in house. Good to have him on. He's on X. Okay, I know he knew how to use X. All right, whatever.
I want to go to Pizza's comment though. No, I don't think. I don't think Hal is doing this on purpose to be the opposite of his father. I don't think he's doing that. I think Hal is just the way he is. He values continuity, which there's nothing wrong with continuity, because I think we don't see enough of it in sports, because ultimately what happens is, if you go through too many guys, sure, it creates a new buzz and you win the back page war of the New York Times or the New York Post. But going forward, though, your team's not going to have a direction. And I think Hal just wants one direction, rather than his father, who made spur of the moment, who was like a spur of the moment guy.
Okay, well, there you go. Sets the record straight. All right, we can continue the Yankee talk all we want, but we're going back to California, and I'll tell you why. Because the Angels are 6-0 against the Dodgers in 2025. My goodness. And they did it without Shohei Ohtani. Skip, I want you to lead off with this one. What are your thoughts about the Angels turning the tables on the Dodgers?
Yeah, I think sometimes throughout a season, for whatever reason, you just have the other team's number, and it sounds like the Angels have the Dodgers' number this year. The one thing I am certain is the Dodgers don't really care that much, because they don't have to play them in the postseason. There's not really a chance of that, so the Dodgers could probably care less that they went 0-6 to the Angels. But, it's just something that happens from time to time, where it's either a pitcher against a team or a team versus a team or a batter against a certain team or in a certain, park. You just have that confidence and you go there and you steamroll them when you play them. And that sounds like what the Angels were able to do this year.
Katzy?
I think in a crosstown rivalry like that, both teams are coming out with a little bit of energy, particularly the team that isn't going to the postseason and treats the game with a little more importance. And I think that's what the Angels did. Although as someone who roots vehemently against the Dodgers, I can't say I'm complaining there.
Okay. Yeah, well, keep in mind, Ron Washington took that job, and unfortunately, he's been down. I could see him coming back another year from now. He's well respected out there. I think the Angels are more concerned about his health, but they have another guy who's holding down the fort just as well. But Ron Washington's a good manager, and his influence is felt all over that organization for sure. Everybody loves Ron Washington.
He's got, before going down, he was getting a lot out of that team. It's not a team that's gonna wow you, but he's getting a lot of guys out of the team. I know like Zach Neto has definitely benefited from him being there. Obviously, they've been able to get a healthy Trout, which is something that the baseball world hasn't had in a very long time. And it's just he's getting a lot out of that team. And I think that if Ron Ron should be back if barring his health, because I thought he was making great progress with that team, because this is the most competitive they've been in a while.
Ron is an awesome manager, right? One of the best. If you're around Ron or you're coaching against him, he's a tireless instructor, right? He's always teaching the game. He loves it. He takes it to heart. He really cares about his players. I remember when I was managing the Mets and I was talking to Ron when he was the third base coach with Atlanta. I was like, man, I want to go play for this guy. He's just a guy that he has that charisma, the way he talks to you. He really respects the game. And I love going out there early and watching him coach a player on the field, an infielder, a first baseman or whatever. I remember doing that back in the day when he was in Oakland. I remember doing that when he was with Atlanta, and just watching him do those drills with the players. And those players really respect him. So great manager. I hope he does come back next year and the Angels have a lot of success under Ron.
Hey, just a little FYI, Cybrewski and JD, I know you're on another venue, but a platform, which is good. I'm glad that we're able to get traffic there, but you don't get points for being there. You get points for being on YouTube, just so you know. So you need to be on the YouTube channel to get to be eligible for the giveaways. I know X is a good. I have to go on there a couple times a week to get my content out there, but you get points for being on YouTube. X is great, but just give you guys a little heads up that YouTube is where you go ahead. No, you're not blocked on YouTube at all, JD. The only thing I ever blocked you on, man, was just calling me 250 million times a day on your so-called regular phone calls. You're not blocked on YouTube. I haven't got rid of you yet. No, I just can't. I can't. Let me tell you something. I can't handle these guys calling me 9 million times a day when I have to go ahead and sleep a lot and try to prepare for shows. And I don't like to talk about that stuff on the air because it's irrelevant. You're not blocked. Neither you or Cyberooski are not blocked on YouTube. It's just the group chats that you guys have are prohibited right now because you guys need to come out of the sin bin, as they call it in hockey, and you're in the sin bin. So go back on YouTube if you want to be eligible for the giveaways, and then you go for no, you're not blocked. We don't block anybody on YouTube. We love YouTube, don't we, guys? Because YouTube is really we love X too. X gets the content out. Look how many followers you got on X, by the way, Eric.
Probably like 3,000 something. I'd have to go look.
Yeah, you got a lot. I've got like over 5,000. No, you're not blocked on YouTube. Yeah, these guys like to have these little group chats, and they to me they go off at all times of the day. And yours. And listen, Skip, no disrespect, but when you're putting together shows and you're trying to prepare for other things going on, I don't have time to answer 9 million calls here during the day when you're preparing for things. You know what? How many times did you take phone calls during the day when you had to prepare for lineups and you had meetings?
I hear you.
Do that. Yeah, and let me take this opportunity to let everybody know on the network that we're going to be having a no limits feature that'll be focusing on CTE coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm working in conjunction with a woman out in California about a guy who has a hyperbaric chamber, which is Katie. Why don't you come on here really quickly and give everybody an overview of what we're working on? I think you do a better job describing it. All right, there you go, Cyber. Josh Shador's getting. No, you're not. There you go. Spaghetti for breakfast. I haven't even had breakfast. Okay, you can answer that. But Katie, give everybody an overview about what we're working on, and then we'll go to a station break. Skip, you're going to really like this. Now I'm working on this. I was on the phone with this lady for 2 hours. Now I got Zoom calls, and we're hoping to launch it a week from this Thursday on No Limits.
So basically, what we're talking with is a former USA Olympic bobsledder, and we don't really normally think of CTE with bobsledding. We think of it with football, but actually bobsledding, it's very, very prevalent. And we have a former Olympian that's going to come on and talk about it, and he's trying to raise money because there's a hyperbaric chamber that gives you a lot of oxygen, and that's supposed to be very beneficial to anybody that has CTE. So he's going to be talking about his life, some of his teammates that are no longer with us, CTE, and him raising money to for this therapy because he'd like to give it free to people that need it. So it's going to be a great show. Looking forward to it. As far as we'll take it to a station break right now, South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved and changed. Old school media versus new school media. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content. Go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to advertise, you can call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to the program.
Great transition, Candy. Boy, this woman's unbelievable. She really is. I've never seen a person who's a more natural than this woman. And by the way, Josh Shador, I'm not covering the fight today. As I understand, you're going to the USF Miami game, so am I. So we'll be over there. I don't know what's going to happen later on after I'm gassed with the post-game interviews, but I'll be at USF in Miami. Good point. So I don't know who's covering the fight. It won't be myself, and I have a feeling it won't be you. I don't know. Are you going to watch that fight later on with Canelo fight, Skip? Are you paying attention to boxing?
Well, I think I'm going to head to the Ole Miss game, the Ole Miss football game. They're playing Arkansas today, so I might head out there and attend that. So I might miss the fight.
Well, maybe we'll have to bring out maybe one of these days here just to mix it up. We'll throw a college football nugget. You like college football?
I follow it a little bit, not a ton. I like to go to the Ole Miss games in the Grove. That's a great experience. But other than that, I'm not a huge college.
All right, I won't get creative on this show.
Yeah,
I'll try to lose on Monday night. How's that? Okay, good
perfect.
Stuff. Yeah, but what do you think about that bobsledding thing, Skip?
Yeah, that's interesting. I wouldn't have ever thought about that, the concussions with bobsledding. But now that I sit there and thinking about it, the jerking, from side to side, I'm sure that really shakes that brain around in there. But those hyperbaric chambers are amazing. We've talked in the past about the Indians and teams like that, those small market teams doing everything they can to help their players out. And we had a hyperbaric chamber there in Cleveland for our players to recover. And it is miraculous, right? They use it for burn victims. Obviously, They're trying to use it for CTE guys, but it really helps your body heal. You're sitting in there in pure oxygen. I think it's about 98% oxygen in there, and getting that oxygen into those lungs and all of your, contact with your skin, it just helps heal whatever stuff you got going on. So they use it for a ton of stuff, and that would be awesome if we can help some of these people out with these concussions, because it's scary. My nephew just got one at 11 playing football, and then my niece just got one. She's about 15, and she got one playing soccer because she fell and hit the ground. So the brain is something we really got to take care of. I hope this helps.
Well, let me tell you, you just volunteered yourself to be a guest on one of these shows. It'll be on Thursday nights, by the way, or Wednesday nights eventually, folks, around 8 o'clock Eastern time. Our first one will be a week from Thursday, and then it'll shift. So once we get a couple episodes in our pocket, Skip, I'll bring on one because the guy, his name, I'm trying to remember what his name is. I think it's William. Candy, you know what the guy's name is off the top of her head? But
I do not, but I can find out pretty quickly. Let's see.
yeah,
here.
she'll find out. We'll bring on here because this guy is really passionate about it. He used to be on the U.S. bobsled team. I'll be doing this along with Jennifer. Her name is Horspool. Really nice lady. These are good people that are really trying to do some pretty good things. I think knowing that you know awesome. More about it than I even realized that you knew. We might actually bring you on as a guest one of these days and talk about your examples. Plus, it'll give you an opportunity to let them follow your baseball show at the same time if you want to. But
yeah, I'd love to. I learned all that stuff in Cleveland. I'm very passionate about it. Trying to take care of my body. I have a sauna and a hot and a cold plunge here at home, and cool. All those things really help you recover. I wish I would have had it when I was playing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing. I've dealt with a lot of head injuries myself because I've had 4 concussions for years and probably a lot of undiagnosed concussions, which has put me in a precarious position where I have Alzheimer's, at least the onset of it. And I'm doing everything I can to maintain as much activity as I can with the medication. So far, I'm winning this thing, but I know ultimately it's going to get me. But when I have guys like you and Eric and everybody else on there, it's a different story. All right, William Person is the former U.S. bobsledder who's going to be working with me, and Jennifer Horspool as well. So that'll be pretty good stuff. So this is something that we're going to be working on, and that's why when I was alluding to you, Skip, that when I get busy during the day and I'm trying to line up things that I consider a series, that gives people something to look forward to that could benefit. Because I think the one thing I've tried to teach you, Skip, and Eric especially, is our goal is to educate and inform and entertain. In a case like this, educate and inform becomes a bigger factor with our philosophy because we're talking about something that's a life-happening event, and we can't go out there and be distracted by external things that are out of control when we're trying to do something that's important for everybody out there on our network. I'm not trying to belabor a point. I just want to make sure that certain things are understood, why certain things happen in life. And I'm always looking to upgrade the programming around the clock here with what I have going on with Stephen Reichel, Ben Troop, Marvin Powell, to name a few during the day. And then what I have going on at night with our core group as well, with our team, which is rapidly growing by the day. So with that said, got that all out there. We're going to talk about the series this week. I'm going to give you guys a few scores of 4 that I identified with. If you find any other ones that are better than what I've got, don't hesitate to let me know. I can't talk about the Tigers and the Marlins because I'm vested in that series. Then I have to see how that plays out, and we're going to get to that series in a little bit. But the ones of note right now, you got the Cubs winning game 1 of their series against the Rays 6-4. The Rangers beat the Mets 8-3. I know it almost seemed like a funeral last night on that show with those guys last night talking about the Mets getting hammered in their trade deadline woes. The Yankees ended up topping the Red Sox 4-1, and the Giants in walk-off fashion beat the Dodgers 5-1. So with that said, Eric, I'm going to go to you first, okay? What do you think about these series to watch over the weekend? Which one is the most important, or how would you grade all 4 of them?
Well, first off, the Cubs are I think are pretty much going to be in the postseason. It's just a matter of where at this point. So, but I'd probably say you have to watch the Mets series. I'm telling you, up in Queens, they are shaking in their boots right now. I'm telling you, because right now the Reds and the Giants are creeping up on them, particularly after last night when Patrick Bailey hit the walk-off grand slam off of Tanner Scott to beat the Dodgers. They're only a half a game out, and I'm telling you, those Mets fans are probably having flashbacks to 2007 when they blew a 7-game lead with 17 to go. So that series is important because the Mets are not a lock to make the postseason. Now the Cubs obviously are going to, they're going to make an effort to chase the Brewers, and they're only 5 games behind them. But I think more realistically, they're going to be a wild card team, and the Cubs would pretty much, in order to lose their wild card spot, have to lose from here on out, which I don't think they're going to do. But you got to watch the Mets and Rangers because the Rangers are trying to get back. The Rangers are back in the postseason picture despite having a bunch of rookies in their lineup, which everyone thought their season was a lost cause. But right now they're making a serious run at it, and I'm telling you that series is important because none of those teams are locked to be in the postseason, and the Mets are, despite spending $324 million, are risking becoming the laughing stock of New York City, and that is the last thing you want to be, especially when the media when there's media seemingly everywhere in that city. So you have to watch that series because both teams are fighting for their postseason lives.
All right, Skip, go ahead. And you know what? Now that you brought up the Rangers, after Skip is done, I'm going to go out there and give you an incredible stat about the Rangers. Thanks so much, Eric. I got a stat that's going to make you look even smarter than you are, and we already know how smarter you are anyways. Go ahead, Skip.
Yeah, I mean, we're 6 deep in the American League, 6 deep in the National League, fighting for those wild card spots. So any game that any of those guys are involved in is super important to each and every one of them, right? You know, the right. Things that I agree with Eric. I think the Mets are probably in a position where they're like, oh my goodness, we got to start playing better baseball because they just hadn't been getting it done, and they're letting their little bit of a lead start to vanish. So you know, I think all these teams have very important play. I love the way Terry Francona's got these Cincinnati team in that direction, and they're doing great and kind of trying to get into that postseason. So this time of year, it's going to be who's playing the best. And you know what's so funny about baseball is one of these teams that aren't even if the season ended today, they wouldn't make the postseason. One of them is going to get really hot and make a deep postseason run. And right now, they're not even, they wouldn't make the postseason right now because that's just how baseball works. They're going to get hot. One of these teams, Texas, Cleveland, somebody down there, San Francisco, Cincinnati, they're going to get steaming hot and they're going to make a good postseason run. It happens every year, and I'm just excited to see who it's going to be.
And you know what? That's what makes the Saturday show much different than the Monday show. Right there, between you two right now. The Monday show is designed to be a magazine-style show is what it is. I'm going to hit everything at you with the kitchen sink. I like what they said on New York MLB Talk that Skip is, I'm telling you, this guy's getting his broadcasting down pretty good. He knows I'm going to mention my name. I'm going to throw everything out there and do everything creative and do different stuff. And I know that's what they were talking about last night. But that's what Monday night is, a magazine style of type of show. Every now and then I'll come up with up-to-date information. No problem. But this is what we live for on the weekend. That's why I had the ability to go inventory with 2 shows, let alone on Saturday with these 2. Eric knows more than 90-year-olds know, and he's only 30. Okay, I got to get him married off one of these days. Maybe that way I can be at his wedding. And you, Skip, my God, you and I, it's unbelievable stuff, man. We got stuff to do out in Mississippi. So that's what it's all about. Now, what I'm going to do is this. This Mountain Dew's kicking in, everybody. And I got football later. Bring on the dew, baby. I'm ready now. I know it's going to be a hard game because I got USF, my alma mater, against Miami, the team I'm a vested interest in. I ain't worried about it later. But back to Katz. Here you go, baby. Here's a stat, $156.9 million. That's a number. If you're a lottery player, 156.9 or 1569. What does that mean? You need a 4-digit. Here it is. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a 2-digit number next. The Rangers' active payroll is now down 63% with surprise rookie-led team. Oh, my goodness. Do we have an echo in here? Hey, go Katz on its first show. Without the bang! Where did he hit it? That was one of my first things. And you want my home run call? There's a long drive deep to right field. This one's got the distance. It's gone. Then if you want to go left field and center field, I'll do that too. But this is where he hit a home run with this one. Now let me keep the narrative going. Skip, you having a good time with all my stuff? Good. I'm starting to get warmed up now. You ready? How am I doing, Skip?
Let's do it. You're doing awesome. You got a lot. That Mountain Dew has kicked in. I love it.
Kicking in, baby. I love you guys. All right, I'm not done. All right. So get this. I talked about the Texas Rangers lead all. of MLB with $124 million worth of players on IL. Injured list, baby. With injuries to so many high-dollar players, they're currently the expanded 28-man roster is only owed $91 million, which is $37.5 million that is owed to Just DeGrom via Sport Track. Now, Eric, I'm going to go back to you. You said a mouthful before without that information. You want to say a mouthful with it.
I mean, it comes to show you, Scott, that like, the Rangers, people forget though, despite their free agent binges, they've always had a good farm system, and they're bringing up guys now, which is not always the wisest idea to bring up players, especially when your team is relevant in the middle of a playoff chase, because the pressure is there more to win than it is to develop. But the Rangers are also showing you that rookies, they're just glad to be in the show. They are just glad to have an opportunity to compete at the big league level, because they don't want to go back down to the minor leagues. This is their proving ground now, and the fact that the Rangers, that they're doing it and also helping the Rangers win is going to give Texas some good problems to have next spring. It's been incredible. It's amazing what new energy in a lineup with young kids coming in there who are looking to make their mark. They aren't concerned about being traded. They aren't concerned about their next arbitration hearing, and they're not concerned about being a free agent. They're just happy to be there, and that's what's happening with the Texas Rangers now. And not only that, they're helping the Rangers win. They've also, those rookies have single-handedly gotten the Rangers back into the postseason conversation when they were looking like another major disappointment, when it seemed like this team for much of the year was kind of stuck in the mud. Now they got a chance to not only take a postseason spot, but they're also making a serious run at the Seattle Mariners and the Houston Astros.
So, Skip, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You ever heard of Bruce Bochy?
I know Bruce Bochy, yes, sir.
Is he pretty good? Really good? Great?
He's one of the best, right? Especially with these young players coming up. He allows them to relax and go out there and play and perform.
There you go, people. You heard it here. You heard it everywhere. And for all my people in Marlins land that want to go ahead and look at my second show, Talking Baseball with the Motor City Man Mouth, Mickey Callaway and Katz. This is the network, 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning, maybe a few minutes before. Promote it or not, put it on your calendar, everybody, and come and see us every Saturday. But the whole idea is Bruce Bochy's pretty good. And I'll tell you, Texas Rangers are a team to look out for. But yeah, I think the Tampa Bay Rays and the Cubs series is an intriguing one. We know that obviously the Mets are going to panic all day long because they probably think that they made the greatest trades on the planet, but it's not what they look like when you make them. It's how they pan out later. Why do you think when all these trades came down, Katzy and Skip, that I didn't jump on them and talk about it day one? Oh, I saved them, but I waited over a period of time to evaluate them later. Don't worry, I got another one we're going to talk about in a little bit that we talked about last week, because of the fact that, and of course we got the Yankees and the Red Sox. That's always an interesting series, whether they're competitive or not. And the Giants and the Dodgers, well, they're rivals too. But the reason why I don't make those prejudgments right off the bat is you need time to find out how these are going to play out. Injury is going to factor into this whole thing, and what's going to happen where you gamble on guys that have injuries when you make the deals and hope they come back later. There's so many different variables when you're dealing with this stuff that I'm not one of those types of people that you go out there and a reactionary type of person. I just want to see how they play out, and then we evaluate them as time goes on. Otherwise, I'd need 12 hours worth of show. Skip mentioned an interesting point the other day. 2 hours a long time. I'll tell you something, Skip. Many years ago on Saturday, I used to go from 6 o'clock at night to midnight on WBRB radio out in Detroit to do the sports exchange. And I'm telling you, you're getting off easy with 2 hours, although we don't figure to rival that today. But it's a different situation. But my point is that when you deal with this kind of stuff, is all I'm telling you, is you can talk about it all day long, but you really need to find out as time goes on how they all play out. That's all I'm saying. And that's why I'm not too prejudgmental. I'd like to wait 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and yet then boom, incorporate them in. Not because of Candy Ebling, who deserves an assist. No, this isn't hockey, Joshua Dore, but it's close enough to it. She says there hadn't been any no-hitters all year. So you know what? I'm going to dedicate this segment to Candy Ebling, and it's going to be a new one on this show as well as Monday night, Candy. So get on here for a minute, because I think this name segment has your name written on you, and if you're lucky enough, we'll keep you on for a second one. Show your pretty face, Candy Ebling. Okay, that a girl. All right, since there haven't been any no-hitters for a while, I'm going to find them, okay, over history, okay? Think about Candy all the time. Lots of different ways, and, we'll leave a lot of some of the personal, the business, all that business. Of course, who in their right mind would hang out with me all these years and still be a sports junkie like she is and still put up with my fiery personality and deal with PR people these days? Good luck.
And fuel your Mountain Dew habit here too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she really fueled that. All right, that's it.
I think Candy kind of. I think on both fronts, Scott. Candy kind of provides the batteries for you there.
Yeah.
That smile says it all, Scott.
Yeah, sometimes nonverbal communication does do a few things. So Skip's never seen me like this before. He's always seen me a little wild. I had a tiger look at this guy see it. All right, July 9th, 1976, the bicentennial, 5 days after it. Guess what? The Houston Astrodome had some fireworks. You know why? A guy by the name of Larry Dierker throws a no-hitter against the Montreal Expos. Yeah, United States and Canada. 5 days after the bicentennial. The final score, 6-0. Dierker punches out 8 hitters in the performance. How about that, kid? Because of you said no hitters. What are your thoughts about Larry Dierker 5 days after the bicentennial? Anybody in this audience know about the bicentennial? We know New York MLB Talk does. I don't know about his Me Bamba guy. Maybe he does too, Chris. He's a punching boy on Wednesday night and loves every second of it. Go ahead, Candy. What are your thoughts about Larry Dierker, that no-hitter? You're probably the only one in your family that might have been alive. I know, or maybe one or two might have been. But Larry Dierker, and this segment is called the Candy Ebling segment.
My segment? I didn't even know I was getting a segment.
Well, of course, you never know until I drag you into things. That's been our whole life story.
I mean, obviously, throwing no-hitter is a phenomenal feat because it's not something that you see every day. I mean, in all my years of going to ball games, I've only seen one. And I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, I'm sure Mickey can attest to it. I mean, you're talking at the major league level, all the people, the batters that you're facing are good batters because obviously they're playing MLB. And so they're trying to, whatever they can do, bat on the ball, whether it be a hit, whether it be, anything like that. So to throw a complete game no-hitter yourself is amazing.
Funny how you say you've only seen one. It just so happens the series that we're watching, the Tigers and Marlins, when they did it on day 162, when Anderson Alvarez threw that no-hitter at Lone Depot Park. That's the first one I've ever seen, too. And now here we are this weekend covering it we have a cookie we have on the bookends of a football game. We're covering the Tigers and the Marlins at Lone Depot. It doesn't get crazier. What are your thoughts about Larry Dierker, Skip, throwing that no-no in the bicentennial year? Don't worry, I got a lot of interesting ones coming up. This one just stood out to me.
Yeah. I didn't realize that Larry had thrown a no-hitter, so that's a great accomplishment. I think we were talking about it the other day. And Candy, how many no-hitters was it in the history of baseball? It was not very many. So it's such a rare thing for Larry to be able to throw on. That's really cool. Anytime you hear of these accomplishments, you just want to get in the mind of what is going through their head as they get into that 7th, 8th inning and they're about to do something special. I've seen games with tons of strikeouts. I remember Corey Kluber striking out 18 one night. And, those guys just kind of go even though it's so. It's cool to just be back in the brain when they're going through something like that.
Well, you know what, Skip, should I go ahead and hashtag the word realize? Because when I get done with you, you're not going to realize a lot of things, and that's what keeps us interesting.
Absolutely.
I'm going to experiment and see what happens. Hashtag number 54. That's where we're at so far, Candy. Realize. Realize. I guess my spelling's pretty good on that one. All right, so yeah. All right, Eric, now we know you know about everything. What are your thoughts about Dierker's no-hitter in 76?
I mean, to show you how rare the feat is. I mean, we haven't had one this year. Sure, we've had various pitchers kind of flirt with it this year. I know Luis Gil was kind of messing around with that territory last night against the Red Sox, which I thought would have been fantastic had it happened, especially against especially against the arch nemesis Boston Red Sox. It's just so rare. It's like you got a better chance at winning in the lottery than you do of witnessing a no-hitter, just because they are so rare. But it's always incredible when teams throw it. I know we've had years where us as fans have been absolutely spoiled by the amount of no-hitters that have been thrown. But then we have some years like this year where nothing's going on. They just don't happen very often. And nowadays, though, I mean, teams have kind of become too bullpen happy. Instead of letting the starter finish the deal, they let the bullpen come in there. And generally what we figured out is the bullpen finds a way to screw it up, because that's just what the bullpen does. But in some cases, obviously there are combined ones, but it's just not the same as guy going out there, pitches his butt off, and then no one gets a hit. It's just not the same deal. I mean, it's better. But but I think that's just how the game has changed, though. Teams are becoming a lot more reliant on bullpens, but it's just so rare. I mean, it's just really hard to see something like that happen. So but when it does happen, it's really special, because you don't know when it's going to happen again.
Well, it all comes down to. I'm sorry.
Katzy's point is great, right? It's really has to do with the way the pitchers are being used these days.
Right.
Now you got to have four or five guys having a great day instead of just one or two. That makes it tough. But it's kind of interesting to me that it seems the team batting averages are kind of at an all-time low. Not many teams are hitting for average very good, but yet we still don't have a no-hitter. So it must come down to the way we're using our pitchers.
No, it's all specialization, Skip. You know that. I don't like specialization if it's overused. I get the idea you have to do it, but come on, get real. I mean, we're talking guys that are pitching every 5 days, and you can't even get 8, 9 out of them. Once upon a time, we used to. One rule I do like is the 3 batter minimum. And the reason why I like it is because what's wrong with that? Because these guys used to go multiple innings, and our crack statistician says there's only 326 no hitters in MLB over how many years? 100. That's how rare it is. Everything you guys are saying are
30.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. So great stuff. All right, we're gonna talk. Let's go back to Miami last night. So during our pregame media availability, I had an opportunity to talk to Clayton McCullough about Sandy Alcantara. We're not going to run the tape. For those of you who want to see that interview in its entirety, just go to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, and the media availability is up there with Clayton McCullough. I asked him about Sandy Alcantara. I also asked him about the catcher that we alluded to earlier, and that catcher being Brian Navarreto. But get this, Sandy Alcantara is a really good story. He really is. Last night, he only gives up 4 hits. He has 8 strikeouts in 7 innings pitched, leading the Marlins to an 8-2 win over the Tigers. Now, the unfortunate part about that game is that Tarek Skubal leaves the game after 46 pitches early with an injury. I think he was favoring his left side is what he was. Tigers have no official injury report yet. They feel confident he'll be all right, but they're going to get some imaging done. But this is not the time of the year, Skip, for the Tigers to have these kind of issues with their ace going down. Because I'm going to tell you, last night you had a matchup with 2 Cy Young Award winners, and it looked good. When I told Candy this is what we had last night, she was excited of all the games they're going to go to. You get that matchup. And another footnote about it is this is the first time that Sandy Alcantara has ever faced the Detroit Tigers, and he looked like the Sandy of old. And he looked awfully good and beat them. Skip, take it from there.
Yeah, see, I always love a great pitching matchup. That's what always excites me. Oh man, these two pitchers are facing off. I need to tune in and kind of watch this game. But yeah, you're right on all fronts. It's very scary when your left-handed ace grabs his left side, because the first thing you're thinking about is an oblique or something like that, and that's going to take weeks and weeks to get him back, and then you got to ease back into throwing, because those little muscles in between those ribs and everything are very, very, very small, and when you injure them, it takes a long time to heal. So that's the first thing I thought of when we think about side with a pitcher or a hitter, is you think oblique. So hopefully it's not that, and that he's not going to miss much time. They always say, well, I'm sure he'll be fine until he's not. So they try to keep everybody at bay until they get the official word. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And as far as Alcantara, when I was managing the Mets, he was one of the best pitchers over there in our league for the Marlins, and I've always loved watching him pitch. I got to see him when he first came up, and he was very impressive then. I know we were trying to get him. I'm sure other teams are always constantly trying to get him because he'd be a great addition, and he's a great pitcher.
Yeah, and another unfortunate situation happened. Now I'll turn over to Eric. That Javi Baez leaves the game early after fouling a ball off of his face. Let me tell you something. This was ugly. If anybody's ever seen a ball fouled off his face, that hurt. And obviously Trey Sweeney had to go in and play. Did you see that play? Because if you don't, you can find it on YouTube or Google it up. But this was awful. I hope that Javi's okay. He's been a big part of the Detroit's offense as well. Candy's got a picture of Terry Scuba on the hill. There you go. Throwing. And, of course, now you got Sandy Alcantara. Let's put a few visuals up there. There you go. Of course, we got to make sure the photographer gets her stuff up there. But anyways, Javi Baez is a very important part and made the All-Star team this year, Skip.
Yeah, you hate to see anybody like that go down. He's been kind of rejuvenated over there, and really seems to be in a good spot with everything. And then kind of I hope he doesn't miss any postseason time. Fouling it off your face is a tough thing to do. That's not something you see very often. But I've seen a lot of guys even get hit in the face and they're back fairly quick. At least it's not an oblique. You don't ever want to get hit in the face, but that seems to be, maybe next time he goes up there, he'll be wearing a face guard or something. So I wouldn't assume that he's going to miss too much time. But I'm really worried about Scooble.
Yeah, no, me too, especially when I saw him lead the way and he was favoring it there. All right, Katzy.
I mean, it's just awful for Javi Baez, especially because he was having such a just a bounce back year after a rough 3 years where he's had injuries, underperformance, things like that, and not really living up to that big deal Detroit signed him to. But hopefully he's able to come back better. I mean, hopefully he's available for the postseason, because it'd be really rough if they didn't have him. As for Scooble, that's just devastating to lose your ace pitcher like that this late in the year, where someone is as dominant as Tarek Skubal is, who can mow guys down, and he can actually sometimes when you see him pitch, he actually stares at the guy saying really, and actually strikes him out. And that's just devastating, because that guy's the ace of your staff. That's the equivalent of that's the equivalent of your team losing its quarterback. It's that devastating. And a lot of other guys, the Tigers don't have a rotation that's deep enough to where they can have another guy just step in and be that 1B. They don't. They maybe have a bunch of 3s and 4s at best in the rest of that rotation. Sure, they got Casey Mize, but I wouldn't call Casey Mize, a real, a guy who I'm saying here, you're the number one pitcher. And it doesn't help that they don't have Reese Olson right now, which is also troubling for Detroit. So, hopefully that Tarek's okay, though, because not having him in the postseason, I think, is going to be devastating for the Tigers, and they can only go as far as Tarek will take them.
Oh, no question about it. And keep in mind, going into this series, okay, the Tigers had a little bit of momentum coming off the New York series. Anyhow, they lost the last one 9-3, but get this. The Tigers are the first visiting team to win back-to-back games by 10-plus runs at Yankee Stadium, old and new, by winning 12-2 and 11-1 decisions at Yankee Stadium. I mean, they beat the daylights out of that staff, and all of a sudden, the third game, I think they went with Tyler Holton with a bullpen game. But that's impressive to think. A team could end up beating the Yankees in New York and the Bronx by 10 runs in back-to-back games. Again, it hadn't happened since 1906, and none of us were born anyway. How many of our grandparents were born, let alone our great-grandparents? Well, maybe great-grandparents, but that's a long time. 1906. Skip, that's surreal.
Yeah, that is. I can't believe that the streak has been that long. It'll like you said, it's not easy going to Yankee Stadium and really beat up on that team historically. They've had 30 seasons now where they've had a winning record, so they're always
33, actually.
up
I
there.
just found out
33.
today. Yeah.
That's an amazing stat. They're always putting a good product on the field. They take pride, and when you go in there, it's tough to play there. So I can see that see why it has happened, but it still surprises me that it's been that long, because it's easy to have a bad couple of games in a row, and evidently the Yankees haven't done that very much at home over the years.
And keep in mind, the Tigers are taking on the Marlins today. Go ahead, Eric. You can comment on that streak, because I have another interesting thing that we're going to talk about today about Charlie Morton. You talk about another trade deadline. If there's ever a time when the Tigers need Charlie Morton to step up, it's today, because Charlie Morton is 9-10 going into today's game with a 5.59 earned run average, and he takes on Jason Junk of the Marlins, who's 6-3 and 4.48. So if the Tigers ever need a game to lift Tarek Skubal up, it's going to have to be today for sure. So there you go. That game will actually start at 4:10 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be over in Miami Gardens. Eric, let's go ahead and talk about what just took place over at Yankee Stadium.
Well, it goes back to the Yankees have had bullpen problems just all year long. Aside from David Bednar, though, it's hard to trust really anybody in that bullpen at the moment, which is a very precarious place to be heading into the postseason, where your bullpen ultimately is going to be your life is ultimately going to be life and death. So, but unfortunately though, it happened at home though, because Yankee Stadium is a notorious hard place to play, whether you play for the Yankees or not. Fans are going to make your life difficult. But but again, the Yankees bullpen has been shaky all year. They've had injuries, which hasn't helped. No pitcher has really been able to settle into any of their roles. So it's been kind of an influx all season long, and it's come to show for it. I mean, last year the pen was like the pen could lock it down. This year it's just unfortunately they've had injuries, and no pitcher has really been able to get into a groove. They haven't been able to get their rules settled, like who the sixth guy in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th is. And it's just been tough. And when you don't have guys getting settled into their roles, these types of things happen.
All right, our final topic of the morning comes down to, yes, the Toronto Blue Jays are not fading in it, but I'm going to take an offensive approach to this topic. Tell you why, because 6 Blue Jays have 60-plus RBIs in 2025, and that stat is of 9-11-25. Bo Bichette has 94 of those RBI. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has 79. George Springer with 73. Addison Barger has 67. Alejandro Kirk with 65, and Nathan Lukes with 60. Eric, that's an awful lot of lumber out in north of the border.
I mean, that's an offense that's built to bash. I mean, you got guys in that lineup who can just hit. I mean, Alejandro Kirk's kind of found his offense again. He's always been a great defensive catcher, and the past couple of years he kind of tallied off offensively after the All-Star year in 2022. And he's kind of found it again. And Bo Bichette, I mean, last year was kind of surprising with Bo, because Bo typically is a great offensive player. And it was kind of last year to see him. I think last year was kind of just a one-off year where he had a year where he struggled. It wasn't his year, but this year he's kind of found his form again. And then Addison Barger has developed into a nice player. He's a big reason, if not the reason, why when the Blue Jays had all those injuries in the middle of the year on why they didn't tally off. The strides that he's made developmentally are why the Blue Jays are in the position they are in now. Obviously, you can't forget about Vlad Jr. Even though like offensively he's not like the guy who they signed to $500 million, which I have my own criticism of that. But we'll wait and see there as what he does in the postseason, because he's got to buck some heritage there. And George Springer, it's nice to see that George is kind of back to doing what he does, because I know the past couple of years have been kind of rough. People thought Father Time was taking over, but he's showing that he still has a little gas left in the tank. But this offense is built to bash, and Nathan Lukes is having a great rookie year. But the offense is built to bash, though, and that's what's going to come down to in the postseason. They're going to have to outslug everybody, because their pitching staff is not all that great. So, but as long as that team is bashing, they can beat anybody.
Skip.
Yeah, this is what Toronto Blue Jays front office wanted when they put this team together. They wanted to swing the bats like this. I love their hitting philosophy. They're obviously teaching the right things. The players are taking the right approach. You know, their on base is unbelievable. They're fourth in the league in runs scored, I believe. So this is exactly what they wanted, and this is what they envisioned when they were building this team. And I think this is because of the things they stress. Their hitting coach is obviously doing a great job, and then the organization is really stressing the right things. So it's tough to go in there, especially in Toronto, and face such a formidable lineup. And they took a bunch of young players, taught them the right way, and now they're really thriving. You know, you're going to have some ups and downs from time to time, like Eric was talking about Bo having a rough, time last year. But it seems like they take the right approach, and they kind of climb out of it when things aren't going bad, and you put up runs. And that's what you want as a pitching staff, right? We want run support, so you can go out there and know every night, I don't have to shut this team down. I just got to keep us in the game, and we can win. And it should be a fun postseason to watch with their hitters.
Great point, Skip. Another thing I should point out, what the hitting coach has a lot to do with their success, but even though Don Mattingly is a bench coach, don't think his footprint isn't involved in the hitting.
Absolutely.
Because you know full well that a guy that's won the batting title as often as he is, he's a bench coach, obviously knows how to go ahead and guide that way, but he's one of the best baseball men on the planet anyway.
Yeah, you view him over there as more of a second head coach, in my opinion. That's why Don Mattingly there. He's the best. His hand is part of everything that goes on, and he's a winner, and he's just an awesome guy, and the players love him.
Yeah, well, I mean, you need the guy. Obviously, we all know whether he's a hitting coach, a bench coach, it doesn't matter. His presence is there as what it is. Go ahead, Eric.
I mean, you don't think for a second he's not working with the batters. I mean, this guy is probably the best all around hitter of the 1980s. I mean, he just, he's got a big say in their approach, and it's clearly working because look at what Addison Barger has done. Look how Bo Bichette has bounced back, and look at how Alejandro Kirk has bounced back. I mean, he definitely has a role in that, and he's definitely with their approach because nobody during the 80s, there was no better hitter in baseball than Don Mattingly. I mean, there's a lot that can be learned there, and he's clearly proven to be a good coach as well, which oftentimes rarely happens when you're a great player, because a lot of these guys who were great players who are coaching aren't good coaches because they can't accept the fact that not everybody sees the game the way they saw it. And that's one reason for it. And also Donnie, the work ethic's still there. Clearly, it hasn't changed from when he was a player. And the guy's working harder than ever to get this team to the next level. And fortunately, the work isn't physical anymore because obviously he had those back problems, which ultimately was a reason for ending his career. But Don definitely has his fingerprints all over that offense. Don't think for a sec during those hitter meetings that Don Mattingly isn't in that room, because who better to learn it from than the hitman himself?
No question about it. By the way, going into today's action. Okay. Yeah. The Blue Jays have a 3-game lead over the Yankees, and they can thank the Detroit Tigers for giving them a game, because the Blue Jays picked up a game while the Tigers were beating the Yankees up a little bit, so they gained a game there. I mean, giving it, but they gained a game during that 2-game blastering that the Tigers laid on them, and Toronto picked it up. And at this point, gaining games anywhere you can get them is vitally important. And the Tigers are going to have their work cut out for them, not only with the Marlins, but they're going to play the Cleveland Guardians in 6 of their last 12 games going in. And the Guardians are 7.5 games out. So don't sleep on the Cleveland Guardians yet. Anybody, you want to add something, Eric?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Stephen Vogt, just like Terry Francona, he gives that team a fighting chance every time out, despite everything that team has been through this year, because it has not been the smoothest of years, especially with what happened with Luis Ortiz and also their star closer, Emmanuel Clase. Right. And, the fact that they're in it, and they actually been playing some good baseball as of late. I'm telling you, that team is sneaky. And Detroit really hasn't been that great in the second half. And, the fact that they play Detroit, I mean, you think Cleveland doesn't want to shock the world? you know, they certainly want to. They definitely have the guy in their lineup in Jose Ramirez who can make things happen. So we'll see how it goes, though. But Cleveland has not faded away. They are still in this race, and Detroit has to be mindful of that because that series is going to have huge postseason ramifications for both teams. And if Tarek Skubal is out for a long period of time, Cleveland just might see an opening to get back in this race.
We'll monitor those situations going on. By the way, 108.6 Baseball Talk Monday night at around 8:45 p.m. Eastern time. That's when we do it. So Mick will be on that. If we could do it 8:30, we do, but we like to give Mick that extra 15 minutes because of where he's at. I know Mick is going to be seeing some football today, as we are as well. But Eric, any closing thoughts real quickly before we go to our final station break?
I mean, it's September baseball. What more can you ask for? You got a lot of teams who are playing some relevant baseball right now who are looking to get in the postseason. And it's just an exciting time of year.
Skip, final thoughts before we go to that station break.
Yeah, keep tuning in. We'll continue to talk about the baseball season, and especially once we get into these playoffs, it's going to be an exciting time. So we're really excited to be able to get to cover this special part of the season.
Yeah, and that's why, again, I talk about the Saturday show. Both shows are important. They're just different. Monday's magazine and Saturday, we talk about some serious stuff going down the stretch. So we have you covered a lot of different ways as well. And occasionally we'll get around to doing a baseball topic here and there in the Sports Exchange. But Monday and Saturdays, we have you covered. Candy, final station break. We'll wrap it up on this edition of Talking Baseball. My name is Scott Morgan, Rock Motor City Madmouth. Please be joined by the skipper, Mickey Callaway, and the kid, Eric Katz. Okay, go ahead, Can.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. For all of you baseball fans, in this book, there's a picture of a young Scott with a young Tommy Lasorda. Go get your copy today. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content. Go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, click it like a share us, and then turn on your notifications so you're notified anytime we put up any type of video or go live. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune.com. But we do want to thank everybody that is in the chat room, and comments are always welcome. Thanks, Scott.
And we gave you a lot of numbers today, everybody. So go ahead, go buy lottery tickets, play them if you get money. I don't want to know about it, but have fun with the money anyway. So on behalf of Katsy and the skipper, my name is Scott Morgan, Roth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us in this edition of Talking Baseball Monday night. 3 of us be back, and we'll have a few more people to go along with it. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next Saturday, and we'll see you Monday night. God bless, and enjoy talking baseball with you. Bye now.